Hello everybody and welcome back. So today I want to talk a little bit more about probably one of the most essential parts of my healing, my diet. I want to talk about the evolution of my diet because it's been a roller coaster and I've had to learn so much along the way, and I've had to make a lot of really hard decisions about my diet, and the journey of my diet has been very emotional. It's been very frustrating, and at times it's even been painful. But I am so happy that I can sit here today and say that I have a lifestyle and a diet that has finally worked for me. Before I get started, I do just want to say that I'm not telling you that my diet is the best diet for you. Everyone's really different, and it's kind of up to you to figure out what lifestyle is the best for you, what foods work the best with your digestive system, and what makes you feel the best. And for me, I have my story, and I'm not going to try and tell you to change your lifestyle. If something's working for you, that's fine. If you're someone who might have a similar story and maybe some things might ring true for you, by all means, consult your doctor about it. Don't just change your diet because of what I'm about to tell you. It's not a good idea. And another really important thing I want to say before I get started too is what might work for me might not work for you at all, and it might make you sick. And there's so much to say about this, and I know some of the things that I might say might make certain people angry, and that's totally fine. You have a right to your opinion. You have a right to be frustrated with a certain lifestyle, and that's fine. All I'm asking for those people who might get angry with me, all I'm asking you to do is just go into watching this video with an open mind. If you want to sit through it, you see the title, you see where I was and where I'm at now. If that's something that you think you might get frustrated with, then just don't watch the video, But coming from a place of compassion and a place of understanding is very, very important, because a lot of people have a very emotional connection to their diet, and they don't really like being challenged, and they don't like being told that what they're doing is wrong. And trust me, I've heard it all. I've been on many, many different diets. I've tried many different types of lifestyles, and I know what works for me now. Please just know that it is not my intention at all to attack a certain lifestyle, to say that a certain lifestyle is bad. I figured out a certain lifestyle that works for me that I will probably do for the rest of my life. But there really isn't a perfect, ideal diet for everyone. Everyone has their own variations of things that are going to work for them, and certain, lifestyle choices that they want to make, and that's totally fine. But that's one thing I really, really want to get across here is you can't just tell someone oh, being vegan is the best diet, being keto is the best diet, being paleo is the best diet, being, high carb is the best diet. There really isn't a blanket perfect diet for everybody. Finding out the perfect diet that works for you is a puzzle. It's a game of trial and error, and it's frustrating, and it is a journey, and it is hard work. And if you're someone that doesn't have any food sensitivities, any allergies, you can really eat whatever you want, that's awesome. That really is. And I know I kind of have a little bit, I talked in a video before about kind of having a little bit of a chip on my shoulder with people who can eat whatever they want, but honestly, I'm grateful that there are people out there that can walk into a restaurant and order anything off the menu and be happy, and that makes me happy. I have friends that are like that, and I don't want to say good for you, because that sounds really phony, but that there's that as well. You don't even have to think about this, and that's also completely fine. But I do think that people have more sensitivities with food and more allergies to food than they think they do. I know I did for a really long time, and I thought that having bloating after a meal, having consistent gas, having inconsistent, digestive issues, I thought that was normal. And you know, we talk about these things a lot. We say, oh, I feel so bloated today. Oh, I feel so gassy today. Oh, I feel nauseous. And yeah, you do have those symptoms for other reasons, but a lot of it is tied to food. And you might not realize that something that you're eating might be really distressing your gastrointestinal system. So after all of that, I'm ready to kind of tell my story and talk about everything. But please, 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 for those of you that are coming into this video with anger or looking for a reason to be angry at me, just try to have an open mind about this. So to kind of talk about my diet pre-diagnosis, I went the majority of my life never thinking that I had any food sensitivities. I kind of ate whatever I wanted. I never really had to think about it. When I was in high school, I really started to think critically about the issues I was having. I was having a lot of stomach issues, a lot of intestinal issues, and I didn't really talk to a doctor about it. I kind of just tried cutting out foods and seeing if I got better, noticed a small difference, and then reintroduce. Sorry, my camera died, so I had to go get a new battery. So back to what I was saying. So in high school, that's when I really noticed that I should look into my gastro issues that I was having. And one of the things I thought might be a problem was gluten. And I cut out gluten without really consulting a doctor or anything, just kind of on my own. And I noticed that I felt a little bit better. I was still having some issues from time to time, but it definitely wasn't as severe. And I definitely noticed, you know, a difference in my overall, you know, gastro health. Eventually I went to a doctor during a regular checkup, and my mom and I had brought up you know, the fact that I was having some issues, and I thought it might be related to gluten. And I got the blood test for celiac, but I didn't do the whole, you know, process that you're supposed to do that's really thorough. And my blood test immediately came back saying I didn't have celiac. And the doctor basically said, if you think you have a sensitivity to it, then just don't eat it. And I was like, all right, cool. So eventually I just really noticed that I was still having some issues, and I really missed eating gluten, so I just eventually added it back into my diet. Fast forward a few years later, so I was probably, I don't know, 16 or 17 when I cut out gluten. And then I went to college, again, didn't really change my diet. I could really eat whatever I wanted. And then my junior year, Actually, I'm gonna rewind a little bit because there's two issues that are really important here. Number one, my junior year was when I really started hearing about a vegan diet. And one of my best friends in the entire world is vegan. She's been vegan for almost 3 years. And she would talk to me about it, and, you know, she's very, you know, encouraging but not pushy, and was just kind of telling me about everything. And I was interested in maybe changing my lifestyle to see if some of my gastro issues would go away. And I also had a huge problem with losing weight. And I wasn't necessarily at a bad weight, but I don't know, I just gained weight really easily, and I had a really hard time losing it. And for a 19, 20-year-old, that's not super, you know, yeah, people have slow metabolisms, and I definitely do, but I don't know, it was really hard to lose weight. So I wanted to see if there was a diet that I could do that would make me feel better, that might, you know, make my skin clear, might give me more energy, because I was really, you know, dragging, and, you know, I just wanted to try something out. Eventually, when I started, I guess you could say at that point that's more of like a plant-based diet, because I wasn't into the whole like ethical component as much yet. That wasn't my primary reason for choosing to go vegan or plant-based. But along the way, as I joined like vegan Facebook groups and talking to other vegans, I started to get more educated on you know, the meat, dairy, and egg industries, and I watched all the documentaries, and that's when it really became an ethically fueled decision as well. And I was vegan for probably like consistently vegan for a year, but I would say mostly vegan for maybe like a year and a half to 2 years or so. So if you go watch my Hashimoto story, you kind of know when I started to feel bad. It was in the summer of 2017. I was still vegan at the time. I was starting to have all these issues. You can watch this, if you haven't watched that story already and want to really know like what my symptoms were and everything, you can watch it now. Maybe it's here. I don't know where it's going to be. It's going to be somewhere up here. So go click on that if you haven't seen that already. Yeah, I got diagnosed and I did my own research on it, and I found out that when you get diagnosed with Hashimoto's, it's encouraged to cut out gluten, soy, and dairy. You're supposed to cut out gluten because it mimics a thyroid antibody in your body and it can trigger autoimmune attacks, and it's just kind of an inflammatory food. And so it was recommended to cut that out. I did. It was recommended to cut soy out because it's kind of a controversial thing, because in large amounts it can kind of throw your hormones out of balance, and it's, you know, high in hormones and particularly estrogen. And then you're supposed to cut out dairy because dairy, again, is super inflammatory and can be a hormone imbalancer as well. And I already wasn't eating dairy because I was vegan, and I cut out gluten and soy as well. And when you're on a vegan diet, plant-based diet, or even vegetarian diet, soy and gluten are two huge sources of protein, huge sources of fuel, and definitely a healthy vegan diet would be maybe lower in those foods, but it's still like, it's just another thing to cut out that makes the lifestyle very difficult. But I tried to maintain it, and I did for another, I don't know, 5 months or so. And then as I, you know, was adjusting to my new diagnosis and trying to manage, you know, my symptoms and my life, I just felt like I was getting more intestinal problems. I don't even want to explain all my problems because some of them are kind of gross, but just trust me, I was having, oh my gosh, it was like all my symptoms that I was having already were just amplified by like 5 or something. And so I tried to still play my own game of trial and error and cutting out certain foods, and I noticed a huge correlation between feeling terrible and eating corn. And so I cut out corn and I felt a lot better, but I still didn't feel great. And then I cut out legumes and I felt a lot better, but still didn't feel great. And then I noticed I wasn't digesting a lot of foods properly, like I wasn't digesting a lot of grains, quinoa, rice, those kinds of things. I wasn't digesting certain vegetables, and I wasn't digesting legumes. So at that point, I couldn't eat soy, I couldn't eat dairy, I couldn't eat grains pretty much, I couldn't eat legumes, no eggs, and I had to watch certain vegetables. Like I have to watch my cruciferous vegetable intake for my thyroid disease, and I couldn't eat a lot of nightshade vegetables because I noticed they were upsetting my stomach. So basically, if I had kept up my vegan diet, all I could really eat were like oils and mushrooms, squash, carrots, those kinds of vegetables, rice on occasion, and then fruit. And I remember this very distinctively. I was out shopping with my mom, and I just turned to her and said, I don't think I can do a vegan diet anymore. And I don't know how I'm going to wrap my head around eating animal products again, but I need to, because I feel like I'm about to faint. And my body is just falling apart at the seams. And that was a really, really, really hard decision I started out slowly by just eating eggs, and then I moved on to fish, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I started eating poultry, and you know, eventually I kind of implemented everything, but it was so difficult. And you know, watching all the documentaries, watching how the animals are treated in mass factory farms, watching how dairy cows are treated, watching how baby chickens are treated. If you've seen the documentaries, you already know. You get a little bit scarred watching that. And yes, I had to make that choice because my body was going to fail and get sicker if I hadn't made that choice. But I still, like, I'm getting emotional about it. I still today, like, have a hard time eating animal products sometimes, and I don't want anyone to think for a second that it was an easy decision to switch off. It's still hard, you know? So I sustained a diet where I was still eliminating all the things I had said earlier, but I had added back eggs and meat again. And I was doing that diet for 4 more months until I moved back home after graduating. And after I got home and I graduated, I started to see a dietitian, and she suggested that I go on the AIP diet to reduce the inflammation in my body and start my path to feeling better. And if you want to hear all about my AIP journey, you can click up here. It should pop up. Again, still don't know what side it's going to pop up on, but there should be a card somewhere there. So you can hear all about that, because that's also a very long story. But I also found out that I had something called small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and that again threw a monkey wrench into my diet. And I now had to watch out for my starch intake and my sugar intake. And then I had to do a low FODMAP diet where I had to eat fruits and vegetables and foods in general that were just low in FODMAPs. Again, watch the AIP video. I'll explain it a lot more in there. I'm still doing the AIP diet now. I'm about 3 months into it, and honestly, like, I feel so much better. I look at pictures of myself from a year ago, or even just as few as like 5 months ago, and my face was so puffy and inflamed. My body just was so inflamed, retaining so much water. My stomach looked like it was 5 months pregnant, just from all the inflammation in my body. And now I've lost 22 pounds on the AIP diet, and I'm unable to exercise at the moment, so I haven't been exercising or anything. Like, it's all just from diet and reducing that inflammation and getting rid of that extra water weight. Just that, lost 22 pounds. And I know it's not just all about the weight and everything, but it just really goes to show that, you know, nothing was really working for me until I did that. And again, like I said, I am not saying that if you have Hashimoto's and or SIBO, you should do the AIP diet and your life will be cured. I know so many people who have done different diets that have put their diseases in remission. I know people with Hashimoto's that have done a vegan diet and put it in remission. Everyone's different, and you need to accommodate, you know, your food sensitivities, your food allergies, what's going on with you, and pick a diet and a lifestyle that works the best for you. For me, it just was almost impossible to be vegan. I was not going to get the nutrition I need, even with like supplements and all that stuff. My body was going to fail. It already was. And I even talked to my dietitian about my diet journey, and I asked her, I said, do you think that being vegan was a catalyst for my disease? And she said it really wouldn't surprise me, just because I was eating such large amounts of inflammatory foods for my body. I was eating a lot of gluten, a lot of legumes, a lot of grains, a lot of vegetables I wasn't supposed to be eating, and it just eventually just became chaos in my body and just caused my body to say, like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when I got, you know, my crash, and I had the largest flare-up of my entire life and eventually got diagnosed. Now, I'm still, I'm just 22 years old. I only got diagnosed about a year ago. There still might be foods that I'm finding out along the way that I have sensitivities to, and I'll have to cut it out and I'll have to work it out and I'll have to, make my adjustments when I get there. And really quickly, just something else I want to say is that if you're vegan and you are vegan for health purposes, for ethical purposes, for any purposes you decide to go vegan, that's an amazing decision. But it's really important to keep in mind that while you do want to spread your message of going vegan to, protect animals, to protect the environment, for whatever reason you're doing it, please just keep in mind that there are some people who don't have a choice. And if I didn't have as many food sensitivities and food allergies, I might still be vegan. But didn't have a choice. And there are many, many people out there who are in the same position that I am. Maybe just not with an autoimmune disease, maybe they just have a lot of allergies, or, just everyone has a reason for why they live their lifestyle. And before we're so quick to judge other people for their reasoning behind things, it's good to just take a step back and think about that there are a lot of people in a lot of different situations with a lot of things going on that we don't even know about. And before we're so quick to judge someone for the lifestyle that they have, for anything, not just diet, it's really important to just have an open mind and go into something with compassion. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you. And if you have any sort of questions for me about, my diet journey, or if you want to share your experiences with your diet and figuring out everything for you, please leave a comment. I would love to hear about your guys' experiences and your stories and be able to answer any questions you have, ask questions to each other. Like I said, we're a community, and yeah, we should just, all share our stories and spread messages of positivity and understanding. If you guys liked today's video, please make sure to give it a like down below, and if you haven't already, please, please, please subscribe to my channel. I do lots of different stuff. I talk about food, I talk about lifestyle, I talk about beauty products, and do makeup tutorials. I've got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.